Ms. Rachana Panda and Ruhail Amin. Ms. Rachana Panda is the Chief Communications Officer and Citizenship Leader, GE South Asia. A Harvard Business School alumni joined GE in 2012. At GE, Rachana is part of the leadership team where her role is to not only lead and champion the communications function, but also protect and nurture the corporate reputation of GE. And now I would also like to invite on stage Ruhail Amin, Editorial Lead Exchange for Media Group. They are going to be discussing on marketing effectiveness, how B2B brands look at it. I request both of you to please come and join me on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them both a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Tejul. Thank you, Rachana, for coming here. So this session is interesting for one of the biggest reasons being that it's always the consumer-facing brands that have taken the major portion of the marketing narrative. You know, they have dominated that narrative for a long time, all the consumer-facing brands. And we have a B2B brand today that would talk about marketing in this changing world, in this changing multimedia dimension. So there are many aspects to this conversation, but before we begin, I would request Priyanka to play an AV that GE has sent us to set the conversation into some kind of perspective.
Molly, can you please take out the trash? Hey, Molly? Ding, ding, ding.
Molly, time to go.
Class, let's turn to page 136, recessive trait skin generation.
How's the new movement sequence going?
Great. Let me show you.
Please do.
I reprogrammed the robots to do the inspection. It's running much faster now. See?
That's amazing, Molly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I will straight away head into the conversation. Rachana, tell me, how is B2B marketing narrative different from the B2C part of it? What is the difference, actually? If you could.
Thank you so much for getting me here. I think marketing for everybody, I believe one thing, marketing at its best does not feel like marketing or should not feel like marketing. For B2B, it's the same. You know, when we look at measurement, that's where it differentiates. Because B2B, particularly for a company like GE, we do gas turbines, we do steam turbines, we do aeroplane engines, we do healthcare products, diagnostics, and radiology stuff. So those are products which really don't get sold over the counter or is not dependent on advertising or pure direct marketing. Marketing for a B2B is a lot to do with market assessment and go-to-market strategy, which is beyond just the marketing or the brand building part we talk about. It's a lot to do with culture. It's a lot to do with brand creation, reputation, a lot to do with data analytics, and to be able to look at different markets and products differently and technology driven. I mean, the similarity that I would say between a B2C and a B2B is that we're competing in the same space. for eyeballs, for attention, for more and more stickiness. So with the B2C brands being extremely powerful, extremely strong on content, I think we all are trying to build an experience for our brands. So reputation is a huge part of brand building in a B2B domain.
Well, it sounds as complex as, consumer-facing brands. At the same time, if you see, technology is a great enabler for both B2B and B2C. At GE, how do you look at those tech platforms and how do you leverage them, to get an outreach that you would ideally want to have? Also, not all B2B brands are purely business to business. They have a hybrid nature now.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of consumer somewhere in those business brands as well. So how are you using technology to further this outreach?
So for a B2B brand, and particularly for a company like GE, a lot of our effort goes in telling the story for our customers, building awareness for the different industries or the products that we are looking at, whether it's aviation, whether it's power, whether it's oil and gas, or even in transportation. And it's mobility. So we don't talk about the product, we talk about the solution and the outcome, and it's a lot to do with customers. But eventually, it's the consumers that we're talking about. Now, in a conglomerate like in GE, we have a healthcare piece, which is where it touches the direct customer. The products don't, the solutions do in a way, and then it's through the customer. So a lot of our storytelling happens through customers, or we start talking about them. Now, in terms of technology, I think the type of technology that we use is no less than any B2C brand. So whether it's AR, VR, whether it's audio, whether it's sound of different machines, we use all type of platforms. In fact, we're quite innovative when we use or leverage the different medium. We do media partnerships. We work with National Geographic. In fact, we did a very interesting campaign. I would encourage all of you to look at it. It's the sound of GE machines, a DJ, acoustic engineers, and the New York Times studio worked together to create this interesting campaign. Basically, they took off all the campaigns and they started working on audio sounds of molten lava, audio sounds of oceans, audio sounds of GE machines. It's very interesting because you create a very nice video, audio campaign and music. It's called the GE Music.
I think we have that AV. We have one of the AVs with you.
Oh, you do? No, then that's not the one.
Different. Okay.
That's not the one. But it's a very, very interesting thing. Also, as a B2B brand, we compete so much with the B2C brands in terms of attention that we have to think beyond. It has to be very, very different. And it has to be very specific to business as well. So when we were moving towards digitization, so now, industrial to digital, we started looking at predictive analysis. Now, when you're talking about predictive analysis, it's easy to say, but it's very difficult to explain to people. So what would be a campaign which would go down well with our audience? So what we did is have some sensors at the mouth of the volcano in Nicaragua. So we had the whole story of the National Geographic team, the engineers who went there, and the storytelling started and the campaign rolled for over months. And the ultimate outcome was basically to measure the next eruption of the volcano. So now predictive analysis in a manner that people can understand, which is normally for our machines or, when a failure would happen or when a shutdown has to be done. So it's a different way of experimenting, it's a different way of explaining, but it's quite outcome-based.
Before we proceed, can I request them to play the second AV as well, please?
Yeah, this is a video with Jet Airways and very local. We had to think differently to get something in terms of attention.
It was a sunny day and I was spanking you. I left all shiny and bright to come and be with you. Jet my love, jet my love, jet my love, jet my love. You stood there smiling at me, your wings slats gleaming too. Decked up in gold and blue, I knew this feeling's true. Jet my love, jet my love, a sweat in stride. Design that burns less fuel, emitting less CO2, saving both costs and the environment, and have more coffee we can brew. Jet my love, jet my love, jet my love, jet my love. Happy 25, my dear, this is a dream come true. Flying day and night, it's gonna be me and you. It's gonna be me and you.
This was a typical customer video that we did to celebrate.
I was
and
going to
congratulate.
tell you that it has a lot of popular culture, and great to see a B2B brand doing this.
Yes,
Wonderful.
we took quite a bit of a risk in that, calculated risk.
Right, right. So my next question is, we still have, I'm good on time. When we talk of innovation and disruption, this is a very commonly used term in today's scenario, market scenario. Coming to a B2B robust brand that has such a long legacy, when they go for disruption or they go to innovate, when it comes to product or marketing, how difficult is it to carry the whole baggage of the lineage that you have and do that innovation? Is it challenging for you?
Matured brands do have their own nuances, and they have to keep in mind a lot of other things beyond just marketing or a brand building aspect. So what happens is, and also I believe if everything else is orderly and process oriented, then it's easier to do a little bit of a disruption. Now, if you go to all the ad campaigns that GE has done over the last 100 years, all of them, almost all of them, except the business ones or very specific customer ones, these are normally very disruptive, very innovative, whether it's formats, whether it's channels, whether it's working with agencies, absolutely disruptive. In fact, I think we learn a lot from agencies and get the confidence there. And also as a culture, I think the culture of the organization is very innovative, celebrating, and also to move fast when you fail. I guess it's a lot of culmination of a lot of things, but yes, we are encouraged to be very candid, very open, and very transparent with a lot of stuff that we do. So it's in the culture.
Right. And picking up from the AV that we saw, a little bit of popular culture, do you think B2B brands are now open to break the traditional stereotypes about communications, reach out that they had, which are very formal and not having as peppy as this one was? Do you think that kind of disruption happening in terms of communication from the brands in the coming time? And what is the future of B2B marketing in your view?
I think it's a lot to do with the expectation from the audience and whether it's relevant. Now, with millennials and youngsters coming in, I think it's very interesting. And at the end of the day, we have to recruit those people. We are learning from startups. We're learning from entrepreneurs. I think the culture is changing, and it's becoming easier to go back to your management and say, hey, we want to try new stuff. I think everybody is now fairly open. Now, coming to the point of B2B marketing, I think the lines between marketing, digital, brand, communications is becoming blurrer. And even the technology teams. I think most of that is more collaboration, more customer-oriented, more understanding of domain, which means as B2B marketeers, you're expected to understand the industry. And most of them are very regulated. But as marketeers, I think we need to be a little more proactive, a little more leading in conversations, a little more growth-oriented, a little more inclined towards culture. And I guess I think the next big leaders would be from marketeers.
I think everyone in any organization, I think marketer, everyone has turned into sort of marketer. Everybody's concern. I have two more questions quickly. One is, what are the learnings for B2B from B2C and likewise? What would you kind of cull out from the B2C domain and implement in the B2B if the marketing tactic has to be more effective?
I think in terms of measurement, B2C is a little more evolved because a lot of those measurement or ROI discussion is very related to B2C. We really can't directly replicate that for B2B, but it's great learning in terms of ROI assessment. And in terms of the use of formats, I think we learn a lot from the B2C brands. They're a little more risk-taking, I guess, and a little more consumer-oriented. And from a B2B brand, I think the ability to use data, the ability to be customer oriented and thought leadership, which means conversing or starting and initiating a conversation. I think at B2B brands, we do it fairly more strongly, and working on a cause or a purpose, whether it's climate change, whether it's mobility, whether it's environmental issues. I think B2B brands lead on that one as well.
And my final question is, does brand define strategy, or strategy define the brand?
You know, for first couple of years, I did feel that the brand defines strategy, in the sense the brand really has to lead the strategy piece, because it's a big brand, right? But over the years, I've realized that strategy leads brand, because every company changes, evolves, moves very, very fast. That's why we call GE as 130 young company, young company, because we are changing every day. We're becoming younger. We're learning a lot from different companies. So I guess the strategy defines brand.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention as well. Once again, lovely talking to you,
Thank
and
you.
such insightful, things to learn from.